see. Hello, everyone. Hi. Just waiting on Lynnette to join. We'll get her connected. I hope y'all are having a great day. It's been kind of cold here in Denver, but not like snowing, thank God. So I'll take it, I guess. Sun's coming back out. Hi, Lauren. Lynnette should be here soon. If anybody wants to throw questions in for Lynnette, be it about working in food and beverage and being a woman, or alcohol awareness, or any questions you might have for her, feel free to throw them in so we can pick her brain when she joins. I feel like I should have like elevator music going. Hi, Lynnette. Here she comes.
Hey.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's not sunny today. There we go. I can't tell where my framing is today. I've decided to work from a new space today. It's like the coronavirus, change up my office every moment.
Yeah, no, completely. I bartended behind my bookshelf last night. It was completely hilarious. And I don't know why, but every time I do something on Zoom for people, I have one sip of alcohol and then I'm completely flushed and my leg starts shaking. I'm anxious. I don't know why I get so anxious doing it. I feel a lot less anxious today than I did the last time we did
I think the Zoom platform, because there's just so many faces and boxes, and you're like, where am I looking? It's
right. And there's somebody's talking, staring at the screen to see who's all lit up.
And bartending, we're further away from it. So you're always inevitably this awkward distance from the computer.
Yeah.
So you see my hands.
I was up at my computer okay, so here's a jigger and you see there it's not full. It should be full. And they're like, what? Anyway. Thank you for joining us. So for everybody who is watching our live, this is our first episode of what we're calling Friends of Hospitality. So Focus on Health, LP and I have been working over the last month to get this whole program up and running. And our goal is to have conversations and interviews and resources from professionals in their fields of wellness. And that's, be it mental health, physical health, fiscal health, and everything in between. But in doing that, I think that it's also important to talk with leaders in our own community about everything, whether it relates to our health or just our careers in general. And as we've kind of posted throughout the month of April, it's Alcohol Awareness Month. And I think it really couldn't come at a more important time because there's so many of us that are going through something we've never experienced. Well, we're all going through something we've literally never experienced before. A lot of us are isolated and experiencing, depression and anxiety. And it can be really easy to just kind of turn to the alcohol in your house as a coping mechanism when you're feeling that way, especially if it's something you've never experienced before. So alcohol awareness is the theme of the month for us. And because of that, Seedlip, which is an incredible non-alcoholic spirits company, is the sponsor of our Friends of Hospitality today. And Lynnette, you're our first guest, and we're gonna chat and hang out and have a good time.
I'm very honored.
I'm so honored to have you. I'll kind of talk about you really quick, but I'll let you talk about yourself. So we met for the first time, it would have been spring 2016-ish, around then, in Nashville. I competed in my first speed rack competition. I had never even attended one before. I was, all things considered, a baby to the industry. And totally terrified and way out of my comfort zone. But I got to meet you and Ivy and so many cool women who have, you know, become really close friends of mine over the years. And actually, like, some people were like at that competition that I've like just now learned now, like, you know, like Elise, who just moved back to Nashville, she was like there. I think Carly Gaskin was there. Like all these cool women were like there, and I didn't even know it at the time. And now we're like great friends, and all because of what you've created. So I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So as Alex said, my partner Ivy Mix and I started Speed Rack in 2011. So you met us kind of when we were like in that almost halfway mark of where we are now, and what we were building. And, you know, it started as a platform to raise awareness about the very talented women that were in the hospitality industry who were working really hard, just weren't quite getting the same spotlight, the same presence on the scene. And so Speed Rack was our way of doing that. We also felt very strongly. I had been doing a series of women's events through LUPEC, which is Ladies United for the Preservation of Endangered Cocktails. And I had met Misty Kalkofen and Kitty Amen at Tales one year, and they were writing books, and they had done this huge charity event to raise money for a domestic violence center in Boston. And so I thought what was great was that they were using their skills of bartenders to give back and raise money for their community. So that became a platform for Speed Rack. We've raised over $1 million for breast cancer through our charity, which is great because, you know, our brands support us to be able to put on the event. And that way we're able to, you know, everyone who comes to our events is donating to the cause 100%. And that felt like the mission was the right thing to do that way.
Yeah.
And so we do that. In my rest of my time, I do consulting for bars and restaurants. I've been the bar director for a restaurant group for the past 5 years called Llama Inn and Llama Sun, working with those groups. It's, you know, it's Peruvian restaurant, but it's really bringing culinary cocktails into this space where there's a real strong relationship between the two things. And I think for us, it's demystifying that and showing how it can be extremely organic. And then, you know, I just launched masterclass.com. So that was the first opportunity to bring our skills to the masses, which happened at a really strange time. I did that with Mr. Lion, Ryan Chetty. And he and I filmed back in December, and it launched literally March 5th. And then we had Speed Rack Boston on March 9th, right as that city was about to close. Then Speed Rack New Orleans on March 16th, pretty much as that city was closing on us.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a weird time of things, but here we are now, waiting to see what's happening with the restaurants, getting back in action, thinking of our action plans of how we reopen, what that looks like responsibly. And that's kind of been this weird month. It's the most I've been home in a really long time.
And where is home for you, Lynnette?
My home for me is in New York. And my husband and I have lived in the city. We have a place just a little bit north, which was kind of the, like, when we talk about life and balance, this was something that was for us. Like, being in the big city life can be really, it's hard. You know, my husband's from out west. He's from Wyoming. He's from a place where there's like lots of space. And I grew up in New York, so I'm not as used to that. Like, it doesn't, but when you find balance of like what we do and how hard our industry can be, there's just finding out what you need for your sanity is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all did Speed Rack New Orleans was without an audience, right?
It was. So we basically, the ladies had started traveling in from Texas, you know, because it was a regional. Mm-hmm. And by, you know, we knew we couldn't have the brands by like Friday. We're like, okay, it'll be closed. Just a few friends, because at that point it was 50 people. Capacity. So we're like, we can do that without sampling. The ladies can have, you know, a couple friends. And then by the time we performed the actual competition, it was in a bar with 2 wells. That was awesome. The bar that hosted us had a horseshoe bar, and with the ladies cheering each other on. And it was, it brought it back to this like beautiful essence of what the competition was, which was resilience and wonderful women, like, and the people who showed up just to cheer each other on. But it was also really weird. It was like, okay, we are doing this, and there was just a lot of emotion about like how we felt about it. But I think at the end of the day, like, we've been messaging with all those ladies, and they're all talking to each other about like getting on a Zoom, or, you know, like, it kind of shepherded them through what we're all going through now. A few have reached out to me, and we're working on, you know, they're working on projects. Like our last dinner after that, one of the brand ambassadors who was there brought everyone out to dinner, and we just chatted about what was coming. And some of them, I was like, do you have a project? Is there something you want to do during this time? And I had a call with one of the ladies the other day who's like using this time to like really working on what she's like, I have time now, and I'm going to build this out, and I've been doing little projects to this point. So I think that, you know, and that's the point. Some people are using it for that. Some people just need to take a rest and not do anything.
Yeah.
That's really important too.
Yeah, I think it's really important to like recognize both. And like LP, my partner in FOH, has been working on launching our website, which we're going to launch on Monday, fohealth.org. And she's just like a force to be reckoned with. Like, she wakes up every day with like so much energy. She's like ready to go. I mean, obviously, like, I'm not in DC, so like, you know, it might take a while, but by the time I wake up over here on Mountain Time, she's like, good morning, bitch, I got this website, it's ready to go. Like, I've been typing code. And I'm like so inspired by her, because like I've been kind of the opposite. Like, I've been having a really hard time like finding that like daily motivation, and like really missing like for me, like I've been missing the structure like so much. Like I wrote about it today on my Instagram. Like, I miss like waking up and having like a to-do list, or like a, you know, what else, you know? So, well, what are you drinking? What did you make with Seedlip?
So I actually have been making shrubs a lot during this time, because I'm like, you know, I'll be making something, and I'm like, I have all these ends of my fruit and things from smoothies or whatever, and I'm trying to buy fresh right now. So when I go into the markets, my strategy is look at what's fresh, grab those things. And so I made a pineapple shrub. Amazing. With the seedlip clove, because I love the combination of the seedlip clove with all tropical fruits, and then some soda water with lemon, and then, you know, I had a cucumber, and I was like, cucumbers taste delicious and everything. Just add that brightness. So just throw a cucumber in.
What was your base for your shrub? Was it like a champagne vinegar?
I actually used an apple cider vinegar, because that's what I had the most of, and I actually really like it. You know, a flavor like pineapple can help temper how strong apple cider vinegar can be. Yeah. And then I just put like a little bit of honey in it. So it's like I mean, there was so much sweetness from the pineapple. I didn't need to do very much to round it out. I think the next version I make, I want to like halfway through the process, then throw in some things like cinnamon sticks and a few things, and make it more of a spiced shrub. But yeah, it feels like a really yummy Gatorade / sangria.
That sounds so good. I'm gonna have to have you send us the recipe, and maybe we can post it on the gram.
Yeah.
Okay, so we typed up some questions, just kind of chat about like the whole gamut from, you know, our industry and your life in it, to kind of what's going on right now. And we had some people send some questions too. So I guess like the first one, like, let's start off at the very beginning. Like, at what point in time, or like when did you realize that this industry was something meaningful to you, that like you couldn't see your life without it? I think we all have kind of like had that experience, you know, like I was studying religion and classics in college, and like one day I had to call my parents and be like, I'm definitely gonna like be a bartender for the rest of my life. Like, when was that for you?
It actually kind of happened in phases. So I graduated college and started doing performing arts. So I was traveling, doing musicals, doing off-Broadway shows. And, you know, it's kind of a similar sort of, you know, it's artistic. You're out there, you're performing. It's kind of the same way. It's a lot of gig work. So there'd be lots of downtimes in between. And I never wanted to be like the cliche waiter actor. So I fought doing that for a long time. And then 9/11 happened, and I was like, well, I'm never going to temp in an office again. So I better figure something else out. And I went to this wine bar that was like a block away from my apartment. And I just kind of talked my way into a job. And what I realized was that like, I loved the pace of it. You know, there's so much about like, I get bored really easily. So what I liked about serving, especially in the wine bar, I had to learn about all the wines. It was a global wine list, and you know what foods would go with it, and I just felt like it was a really dynamic growth potential. From there, I started working in kind of the martini lounges of the day, where like you know it was more cocktails and this like bustling like after work crowd. And I worked at this bar that is kind of right near where Dear Irving is right now, a couple blocks away. And I used to work every Thursday night with my friend Amber, and she was starting to teach me how to bartend a little bit. She's like, you'd be a great bartender. You've got, you know, personality. You can talk to people. Like, let's learn all like the dive bar drinks. But she and I would close, and we went across town because a new bar had opened, which was the Flatiron Lounge. And the Flatiron Lounge, you know, we'd go in there, and it was just beautiful. This Art Deco, gorgeous space. Julie at the time was bartending all the shifts. Her wife Susan, and their friend Michelle Connolly. So it's like all these really tall Glamazonian women making these beautiful drinks. And you know, I had seen like all the tropical fruits. Like I remember she had this drink, the Hanalei Sun, which was just so stupid easy, but so mind-blowingly different at that time because people were still using canned pineapple juice. All she did was like infuse, you know, rum with fresh pineapple juice and then built into this delicious shaken up cocktail that was so good. And the colors and just everything about it. So I decided that I wanted to work there. You know, stalked her for about a year because I kept getting some you know, some shows. I'd be gone for 3 months and so I finally started working there. And through that program, I would start learning cocktails and like the classics. And Julie had a cocktail. It was a flight of the day, that program. And that was awesome because you'd have 3 drinks and they'd be a theme. So you'd have to talk them and sell them to your guests. So inevitably I just started learning all these different drinks because I would ask the bartenders, well, what's in them? And then I'd start asking proportions. So I started learning what was in all the cocktails. And then eventually I moved up to bartender there. And then I started working in restaurant bars, which I just started picking up some brunch shift and realized that I really liked the pace of how like making cocktails with a meal, because you have like, it's kind of like filling in like this you're puzzle solving. It's like get the drinks to the guests before like the apps get there. Then how long do you have to check in with each, you know, group of guests before like the next course and all this stuff. So I really liked that kind of dynamic. And I also like the hours. So for me, that time, you know, I wanted to be up early for auditions and do things. So working 4 a.m. bars weren't as appealing anymore for me. Yeah, it's hard. Like I am a night person, but not that much. I'm a balance between the two. So restaurant bars are where I ended up doing it. And then I started just kind of, you know, less and less. I stopped going out for the jobs in theater because it was right when the recession was happening. Broadway was having issues, and then it was, you know, everything was a tour, so everything was going to be 6 months on the road. And I saw my friends do that, and it's great. It could be great, but it's really hard. You're in a city for 2 weeks, you live in a hotel, maybe there's like 3 days, you fly back home and you're back on the road, and it can be a challenge. So I just was craving a little more stability and decided that I wanted to really make hospitality my life. And so I started doing some consulting work, then picked up a brand ambassador job, which I did for 2 years to kind of get that side of the business. I realized I liked parts of it. I wanted to dabble in it. I was like, you know, I'm good at presenting. I like presenting. I like the education part. I like the part that gets me to go visit bars that are outside of my normal rotation. Because you're challenged to do that. And that is where I met a lot of wonderful people like Erin Reese and people who this is where I really found a lot of these women working in bars, like Michaela Piccolo. And I was like, wow, like if I didn't have to go out, you know, to go do this like rum spend, I wouldn't have met these women who are incredible. And so that started. So there's a lot of good things that came out of it. And I've kept a great relationship with the brand. But It just started at that point. I started getting asked to do events. And the funny thing was, the person who asked me to do my first like coordinate events for them was Rob Cooper from Saint Germain. And he came in as a guest to Freeman's, and, he had his Saint Germain. He's like, make me a drink with this. I'm like, okay. And I ended up creating this drink, the Cusco Fizz, with pisco and muddled grapes and Saint Germain, really delicious, like crushable drink. And he's like, okay, I like that drink. And, we had a big chat. He's like, I want you to start running events for me. I'm like, I've never really run events. He's like, I want you to help us do these events at the Guggenheim, where I'm going to have all these bartenders like making drinks. You guys are going to be batching back of house. And then I want you to tell all the catering bartenders how to make the Saint Germain cocktail properly. And all night, you're going to tell these people to stop making it poorly, make sure they pour the bubbles right and in the right order and garnish it correctly. And so I started doing that. It kind of taught me a bit about, like, from there, I just started moving into consulting and doing event work and all this other stuff. So it was kind of
it's like the classic learn how to manage people. They're like, you were like, it's in your blood, like you'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's a personality.
Like managing any restaurant ever.
Yeah. And I think that's something, like, I do appreciate those kind of people who can see something in you that you don't see. Yeah. And so that's kind of like, a thing. I mean, we spent plenty of times going, like, when Death and Company was first opening, like, Rob Cooper was a really fascinating person within the industry, and the amount of people, he, like, all the people I met through that gig, it's kind of funny to see, like, they were really long-term relationships. So it's interesting how this industry can build. So, and like you said, like, it's all these relationships you make, and then those feed into other things. And, we put together Speed Rack built on those relationships. I'm like, call Rob. I'm like, hey, we need to start Speed Rack. We're gonna do this thing. I need you to just believe in me. Here's the money we need because we have to rent this place. So every brand's got to give us this much money to rent Astor Place. Throw this up, and I need 6 bottles of product for Punch, and we're gonna start this. And because I had those relationships and people who, believed in us, at that point believed in me and my relationships, they were like, okay, yeah, sure, we trust you. So it all started.
Well, and like that actually transitions really nicely into a question that somebody sent in during the Ask Me Anything, which was like, what advice do you have for people that are like looking to start their own project or nonprofit? Like, what mistakes did you make that you learned from? Like, I think that's kind of one of the coolest things about our industry is that there's so few people who are like believe that like keeping secrets makes them more successful. Like, we're such a good community, and like we really have learned, I think, as a whole community, that like sharing those things and sharing our mistakes like builds us up and makes us all stronger.
Yeah, I mean, initially we went really big. We were like, okay, we want a national. We had 11 events the first year.
Wow.
12, yeah, and that's insane. Like,
right.
We did 10 regionals, and then the 11th was the finals, and that was so much to bite off. Like, we're just starting it, and that was extremely aggressive.
I can't imagine. I mean, it's still stressful now.
Yeah.
Doing it for like years and years and years. Like, I literally can't imagine like the first year you're like, okay, we're gonna do like 10 cities, and like I can just imagine like each season was just like, or like each city.
And at that point, we're like, we're pulling it together. There was a lot we didn't know about how to produce it. Every year it got better. Like, there was a good natural idea, and the way we set up the first comp, and you can you can wing it for a little bit and get by, and we did. We're like, all right, we got it 2 years, but then we realized we need to streamline this, and that's when we went down to 8 regionals with a wild card. Like, that makes more sense, because at that point it was, we did a whole online competition for wild cards. It was too many to like get those last 6. It was chaos, and the new model made a lot more sense. And we learned a few things, like even just initially, and I know we've talked about this. It's like, you have to decide: are you going to be a not-for-profit, or are you going to work with not-for-profits?
Right.
For us, year 1, we did the events, not knowing. We knew what our model was. We were going to sell tickets and T-shirts and all of this, and we're going to donate to charity. We didn't know. So all that went to our bank account. We donated, like, I think whatever we made that first year, which was like, I think we donated like $45,000 in the first year. And then we got taxed for it because, the IRS is like, yeah, it's cute. We saw that you donated all that, but you don't get a write-off for
right
all that money
for all of it.
We're like, oh, right. So we chose to partner with charities. So what happens now is each one of our events is linked to one of our main charities. Usually it's Share Cancer Support and the ones that hold the licensing, and then we give it directly to them. So like all that, like we have to figure that out. So all that money comes in, it goes directly to the charity. That check gets cut by the event company, like either Eventbrite or we use Splash, and it goes there. So that was like, figuring that out was like, oh, okay, right. This makes sense, you know? So
well, like that kind of all like loops back into kind of like how we want to talk about like fiscal wellness and things like that. Like, because, you know, why would we know that? We've never been taught that. Like we're a bunch of, you know, bartenders and chefs who have dreams and want to start businesses, and like it's a lot more complicated than any of us, like.
And all 1099 work is, you know, you're going to expect to pay 30% on that at the end of the year. So, you know, if you're looking at it, you're like, hey, yeah, I'm working these events, you know, 500 here, 500 there, and it's all just going to your account. And then at the end of the year, you get a 1099 from a company, and you're like, oh, I didn't save that money, and now you have to pay it. You know, it's complicated. Yeah. You know, luckily then, like, you know, I had a decent savings to cover us, and we had to pay me back to cover the tax bill, which was insane. You know, like we just didn't think about it, and it's, you know, that's what we learned, and that's okay. It's okay to also say like, oops, mistake, but we fixed it. And that's now, you know, a key learning. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know, you're gonna do a lot of gig work, and I think this is really important now as you're getting all this gig work. Really try to keep track of it. You're going to be a 1099 for anyone who pays you over $600 a year. So if you do 2 events for a company that amount to over $600, you're going to get a 1099 for that. You have to be prepared for that 30%. I know we did a few of our sisterhood project
with the financial advisors. They were amazing.
They were so great. The ones in Denver, I still get emails from them. And I think that account thing was really smart, right? Like setting up this other bank account where you just put 30% of all your gig work in there, and that's your tax payment fund, you know, to cover that. And a lot of times also in restaurants, depending on where you are with the tip credit and all of this, sometimes not enough taxes are taken out of your paycheck. And I remember that was a huge wake-up call to a lot of bartenders at one point. I think it was kind of like right around the financial crisis, because I think that's when it really like kind of either shifted, and people were like, oh no, I have to pay all these taxes because not enough came off my bill because it wasn't enough. So it just was complicated. I think it's slightly different now because there's way more credit card tips than there used to be. There was like credit and cash, and it was a mess.
Yeah, I mean, those are like really hard things to learn. And, you know, obviously they can be really scary, especially when talking about money. Nobody likes talking about money. So let's see. This is obviously like our biggest passion. So I'm excited to hear your answer. Like, what does wellness mean to you? And then how do you incorporate like health and wellness into your daily life? Like, I know that you love kettlebell.
I do.
I love that. Like, tell us your story about wellness.
So wellness kind of came at this point for me. What I didn't realize, I think when you work for yourself, it's really hard to remember that you have to save time for you. You know, you feel there's very much in the gig economy. You're like, I need to just be always available, because if I miss the gig, then I miss the opportunity. And, you know, I think that came from that point, probably from the acting days, right? You're like, got to be available. And so I kind of really realized it, you know, obviously when I was included in my daily life. And once that stopped and you're working crazy hours and you're in restaurant bars, you're eating family meal and all this stuff that's like, you know, takes you out of an actual routine. I just didn't have a routine, and that was the problem. And I am a worker bee, and to my detriment, it's like the capacity for work that I have is just like insane. And I forgot that like, it's okay. I can work harder and be a better partner to myself and to everyone around me if I took care of this body that I'm in. And that came from just a point when it really hit me was we came back from Tales of the Cocktail one year, and Cooper Cheatham, who I love, we all love Cooper. He was working with a brand, and they did like a boot camp class. And I remember going to the boot camp class. It was like a week after Tales, and I was like, yeah, this can be great. And I was so out of shape. The only thing I could do well was anything that had arms. I was like, great, my arms are in shape.
They're great.
Everything else was a disaster. Like, I could barely do sit-ups. It was awful. I was like, I am so out of shape. And so also for me, it's time. So I found that, you know, I love kettlebell kickboxing. You can follow her at kettlebell kickboxing. She also has kbbody.com, which is free for 30 days. And she has like a couple of different things. If you don't have kettlebells, you can use like what you can use, or she has some workouts that build the same principles. But I started going to this woman, Dasha, and her martial arts studio, and the workouts were really efficient, which is what I needed. I was like, all right, I can push myself to wake up and be up for an 8 a.m. class. I can do it. Yeah. And I did that twice a week. And once you get yourself into a habit, you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and there was always the 5 o'clock, but I was like, if I wait till the end of the day, I won't do it. So I have to do the 8 a.m. class. And I started going there, and I just see like all of the issues I had start improving. Like, I had a really bad shoulder, you know, back when we started. It was like giant cubes of ice plus Boston shaker, not 10 on 10. So, you know, I'm like shaking this stuff that was not good for my body. So my shoulder had a lot of problems. If I stood for too long, I would just get terrible pain that would go all the way throughout, and I'd be stiff. And once I started swinging kettlebells, it all went away. And I finally realized that like taking those few hours for myself, just my productivity increased tenfold. And that was just really nice. And then I learned a little bit to compartmentalize work and set some parameters. I still struggle with that. To be honest, COVID's actually helped me be better at keeping my weekends, like when I can, really being smart about like, this is my weekend. I'm not getting into that. This is my time. Unless I have an event, I don't need to be on the phone or checking anything. It can all wait till Monday morning. That was something that I needed to work on, was like, hey, like there's other people in my life that I'm not paying attention to if I'm always working, and that's not balanced. You know, you have to be to your friends, to partners, like all of that is good for you too. When you start like forgetting about that, it's like, oops, happened.
I mean, you know, I think a lot of people in our industry kind of treat it like it's like surgery or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like nobody's going to die if you don't respond to that email until you're like back to work, whatever your work week is. Right. So, you know, I think for us, it's really hard to like turn off. And I think it probably comes a lot from like being in hospitality, you know, it's like people pleasing, right? So we don't want to let anybody down by like, you know, not responding immediately. We're so like used to that, just like back and forth, real quick communication. And like, it can be hard for us. I know it's like hard for me to, especially like when the bar is open, to turn off. And I actually listened to a really awesome kind of like quick TED talk about productivity and how important it is to have a better work-life balance, because people that have better work-life balances actually are more productive than people who don't. Because like at a certain point, you like, if you're overworking yourself, like your productivity actually decreases by so much. Than if you know, like take care of your body and take care of your relationships, like you can be more productive in less time.
Yes. And I think that's what it is, right? It's like you also realize you're like, if you're like, I have to do this other thing, I'm going to get this done quicker. Right. You know, and that's good. But I agree with you. Like, I'm still like, you know, I still follow those habits. I'm like, oh, that text message I just got from my boss. Do I need to look at it now? No, don't look at it. Yeah. And like, you know, sometimes I still will like open an email just to make sure like nothing's on fire, and then be like, all right, this can wait. And I'm going to go back on my day. But that's constantly a training thing to do, but it's setting boundaries is important. So speaking of setting boundaries, or like having, you know, like a good work-life balance, what hobbies outside of the food and beverage world do you have? And I love to cook. Cooking is my downtime. So again, this is like, COVID has been like great therapy for me, because I'm like cooking all the time. You know, I love going to our CSA. Like, I want to be a really good gardener. That would really be amazing. I just haven't been able to get into the time to do it, because it takes so much time and so much prepping. So I figure that'll be like the thing that I start working towards, is really having a really well executed garden with plants that obviously can sustain themselves for a week or so. Because if I'm traveling and it doesn't happen, it's like, but yeah, I think the most of it is, you know, I love music still. I don't sing anymore. I kind of like think I'm like, I should get back into it. Just kind of do it for me. And maybe I will, but cooking is the big one. I love like, I think hiking, being outdoors, kind of like, you know, all those kind of things that bring you back, I guess, to just a little bit of nature, my things that I do outside of this.
I think it's important. I think that I think it's like both like a really amazing thing about our industry and like also a huge detriment is that we're all like so passionate, and like we're passionate people in general, but we're so passionate about what we do that like sometimes it can kind of like suck you in, and you can kind of like forget that like before you became a bartender or a chef or whatever, like that you had other things you really liked. And I think that I hope that a lot of people during this time are like being gracious enough with themselves to kind of like re-explore some of those things, and you know, or even if it's just like I was just saying today, like I haven't read a book to like build my knowledge on something in our industry in a really long time, because like you start working and you just like, we'll work like 60 plus hours a week and like don't really think about doing that very often, or like maybe some brand ambassador comes to like teach you about something, but you don't just like sit down and like really read and like expand your knowledge. So that's kind of my goal for the next few weeks, is to start.
That's a good goal. I'm revisiting some books that I know I'm like, why haven't I looked at this in a while? I need to reread this and take a look. And I like reading a lot of food books. So, you know, I have Noma's fermentation book, and I started reading it. I got it as a Christmas present. I started reading it and I didn't finish. So I'm like, well, I really need to finish that book, because I also love fermenting things. Like my goal is to like perfect pickles. I want to perfect the perfect, like beautiful, naturally fermented garlic pickles.
So somebody else just asked if you have any book recommendations. What would you say your like top 2 beverage and top 2 food books are?
I really love, and I started revisiting again, Sherry by Talia Bayoshi.
Oh my God, it's my favorite book.
It's a beautiful book. It's so well written. I you know, and the time it came out to, you know, I had been to all the sherry classes, and I had been doing the sherry competition and all of that. And I just thought it was really nice to see it from somebody who was from a wine side. Yeah. But, you know, and I've read Peter Liam's book, which is really technical, but I think she did a really great job of like making it really approachable as well. And then I'll say the other book that I think does that same thing equally is the Cocktail Codex. I think that book, when I read it, I was like, this is so well organized. This, like, it's beautifully written. I think it's a really great just guy. Like I referenced it with my team, like just even all this stuff about, there's so many good tips in there. Yeah. And every time you read it, you can catch something else that maybe you just didn't catch in the first time. But I think it's really great. I'm looking forward to Ivy's book coming out. So Spirits of Latin America. That's going to be coming out soon. I think in a few weeks. Because, you know, obviously, like, I was work wife during the time she was traveling for it. So, like, I feel like vicariously somewhere, like, I'm like, oh, the baby's being born now.
No, it's true. I can't wait. I need to pre-order it. I should have done that a little bit ago. Okay, one more question, and then we're going to play Never Have I Ever, which I'm very excited about.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Another question that we got from the Ask Me Anythings was like, where do you see the industry in 5 years? And I think like that is a really hard question to answer right now, but it's also like incredibly poignant because of how I think not just what's being forced to change because of everything, but like I think there's also maybe a really great opportunity for leaders in our industry to say like these systems weren't working before and they should change. So like if you have any thoughts on like things that you think will change or that you wish would change?
Sure. So I'm a board member of the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation. And I think, you know, obviously this time has made everything change. Our organization started in 2018, and it started as a response from not-for-profit professionals and people in hospitality who just saw that there was a lot of inequity in so many ways in our industry. And as much as we love it, it can be, we wanted to support organizations that were doing really wonderful things. So we supported like Outsmart NYC, who's doing incredible work for sexual assault and violence in bars and restaurants and trainings. Drive Change, which is another great organization that helps formerly incarcerated people reintegrate into society through hospitality jobs, and just places that we thought we would have like a similar alliance to. And through this crisis, we've set up an emergency fund, and we have been getting a lot of donations. We've already given out, I don't know the new stat of how much we've already processed, but we had over $1 million already went out to help people through our partner Southern Smoke. We are getting ready to launch our zero interest business loans. So that's a really cool thing. So the organization, Axion, I think is what their name is, we're working with, they will basically give out these zero interest loans. And when those loans are paid back, they then will be given out again. So it's like this grant,
just like kind of circular.
Exactly. So we're
awesome.
excited to get that launched. And, I think those kind of systems, I hope that the industry will change, when we look at equity and how, women and people of color have constantly been underfunded to open restaurants, bars, all of this. I hope that system starts to change. I think how we look at how small independent restaurants run and how, there can be, I think the workers, I'm really hoping that their voices and their, they become a bigger part of the puzzle. Like I've started seeing more and more like these open books management, restaurants, and Mimi in Boston, they spoke at our sisterhood project there. And, I think a lot more of these kind of like co-op style places I think will happen where, everyone who's in has some sort of profit sharing and everyone's working towards the goal. I think that just the system has to change a bit. I'm hoping that, obviously right now this shows how fragile our workforce is. And I hope that starts changing legislation on, sick days, compensation for workers in an industry that's, constantly being treated like it's a part-time job. And it's not for many people. It's a big career for many, many people. And that needs to change how it's being looked at.
Absolutely.
And I think this has been a big wake-up call, I think, to government when they see how many people, are out of work right now. And it's
I hope so. I hope that they hear and see. We can really only hope right now, I guess.
And make our voices heard. So I think, that's what we need to do is keep reminding them that we're out here, that we are a huge part of the economy that keeps moving, that we are the places that, imagine, like, I think that there was that article, like, imagine it was Esquire, Jeff Gornier, like, imagine a world without small bars and restaurants. And I was like, that's so sad.
Yeah.
But think about it.
It's not a world I want to live in for sure. So,
no.
Let's see. LP just threw in a question. What advice do you have for people who would like to make a difference but don't know where to start or how to help?
I think number one is to, you can go to some websites. We have resources on the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation, Save Restaurants. The IRC has a lot of information and action you can do. And I know right now the hard part is, some people have money to give, and that's great. And if you do, if you're someone who loves and misses your restaurants and bars and you have some money to donate to some of the organizations that are going to make it a better place, please do. But your voice, we could all, like, I was saying, like, you make it like Action Tuesday, and you can have a list of places. You'd be like, okay, I'm going to send that email to my assembly government. I'm going to call, like, it could be like local government on one day in the morning, spend like 2 hours calling these people. And then the next day you can do federal government and just, your voices, sign the petitions. That's the most important thing. And I know it seems like, and I get to, like, how many of like online petitions have we all signed and we feel like they go nowhere. But I think right now it's so important to be a part of the conversation and to be counted. and to fill in. A lot of cities are doing nightlife surveys, which are really important so they can get a handle on who you were, what you were doing in your gigs, and sharing that information. Especially I think with people who don't get seen often, like make sure that you're sharing that with your barbacks teams as well, and be like, you need to be counted in this because you're really important to this changing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really speaks volumes to like that, to the saying of like things worth fighting for, like don't come easy. Like, it can feel really overwhelming to be like, I'm going to try to reach out to all these people. It's like, I've, not had to do that very often in my life or like ever, so like learning how to write a well-written email to like, be heard, it can feel overwhelming, but like those things are worth fighting for because they're what you love.
Yeah. And I think things like, Independent Restaurant Coalition, they actually have a really smart form. So when you go through their site, it's this awesome letter pops up and you're like, great, I know how to do this.
Awesome.
I can do that now. And I think, if you're uncomfortable, but sometimes just picking up the phone, it's so weird, like cutting through this digital world now. I think we're going to all like revert a little bit to some analog tactics and be like, text someone, hey, can you chat right now? And like, we're all going to talk a little bit more. But calling some of those people and letting them hear the human voices behind it is really important. And I think, you can pour yourself your pot of coffee and just dial a couple of numbers, and those people who are working there are there to listen and record what's going on.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna play Never Have I Ever. Friends watching along at home, you can play too, by just sending a little hand emoji if you've done any of things. If you've never played Never Have I Ever, have you played Never Have I Ever, Lynnette?
I have. It's been a long time, but I'm ready.
Okay. So we're gonna say like Never Have I Ever and then something, and then you basically just have to like admit whether or not you've done it.
I just noticed you're wearing my favorite shirt you have.
My What Would Dolly Do t-shirt.
What would Dolly do?
I bought it specifically because I had my like punch bartender in residence shift, and I was like, I have to wear something that'll make a statement.
I remember seeing you that night and I was like, that shirt is amazing.
I need to send you the link to it so you can get one.
Oh yeah.
I think they have like a jean jacket that like has it on the back. Okay, so we did 5 questions. Okay. And we kept them PG. When Alfie and I were like writing these, we were like Googling them, and I was like, these are not appropriate. Like there's some really weird ones out there. Okay. Never have I ever been kicked out of a bar.
Oh, that's a good question. No, I don't think so.
I haven't.
No. I think I've been wisely enough to like say, I'm gonna.
You're 86 yourself. Oh, I always 86 myself. I'm like, I can't be here anymore. One time, actually, really quick story. There's this incredible restaurant in Nashville called the Catbird Seat. I'm sure you've heard.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing, like coursed dinner, and like luckily this wasn't my first time there, but I one time while having dinner there got a little too turnt and definitely had to 86 myself like before the dinner courses were even done. Like we hadn't even made dessert yet. But I left like my boyfriend at the time and my and our friend there. I was like, y'all can finish. I'm just gonna put myself in a cab. Like I cannot be here anymore. I'm really good about like taking myself out of public situations when I'm too drunk. So speaking of, never have I ever Irish goodbye an event or a party. That was that. Yeah, that's the second one. Do you Irish goodbye?
Yeah, I've Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially like as a Latin person, to not want to say goodbye to like all 100 people maybe twice. Somewhere twice. But I think for the necessity of my relationship, sometimes my husband's like, we've got to go. You can't say goodbye to everyone. So I'm Irish goodbye to people.
Right now. Oh my God. I think Irish goodbying is maybe like my favorite pastime. This one is poignant for, social distancing and quarantine. Never have I ever tried to cut my own hair.
Yeah, no, I never have. With the curls, like I am like aware that any wrong cut, I'm going to end up looking like a mushroom.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. It's like you think you're going totally straight, and then all of a sudden, like when you wash it, it's like pure.
No.
I definitely gave myself bangs for the first time when I was studying abroad in Italy, and they did not go well. I have like calyx like right here and here, and so they were just like this. My hairstylist did a far better job second go around. All right, next one. Never have I ever traveled to more than 10 countries.
Oh yeah, I'm up to 10 countries.
Yeah. Do you know all of them?
Yeah, Iceland, wherever Copenhagen is, Denmark, France, Brazil, Peru, Japan, China, Australia, Canada, Mexico.
Hell yeah.
There's probably more. I went to Chile
more.
too, but those are the ones I could rattle off quickly.
That's awesome. I always say that that's like one of the coolest things about our industry is like the opportunity we get to travel. It's like unlike most,
Yeah, like we were in Ireland together, which I didn't even mention. So Ireland.
Ireland. Yeah. Some of the women that were on that trip are watching right now. Yeah. And CC. All right, and the last one. This one's specifically to you, but also to all the people watching. It doesn't apply to me. Never have I ever wished that I could compete in speed rack.
I have never wished. I have never ever wanted to do it. I commend all of you for being so brave, so fearless. I'm just sitting there like, I am so lucky to never have to do it.
We're like gluttons for punishment. Like this last year when I didn't compete, I was like so relieved. I was like, I literally have never felt relief like this in my life, as like knowing that today is the day of speed rack and I don't have to do it.
I know I completely agree. It's like the thing about it, it's terrifying, but I love that you all like just give your all in it, and that's a testament to it. And that's what I think we were talking about, like what I miss most, like when Ivy and I did the cherry bomb thing, like we miss all of you who are that fearless and who put everything into it, because that's what makes it what it is.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful to have you and Ivy and just like supporting us and championing us. Like I think that I personally know that speed rack changed my life, and I already loved the industry before I competed the first time, but by the time 2017 rolled around and I competed again, like wow, like the things that happened from that competition just really changed my life. So
I love you all so much.
Well, that was kind of like all of our programming. We went a little bit longer than I thought we would. So thank you.
Okay, I love whoever said that they cut their own curly hair now ever since the incident. I'm going to catch up with you and find out what the incident was.
I'm going to scroll back up and see who that was.
Baccalaureate.
Oh, that's Drea.
Oh, Drea. Oh, Drea. Oh, boy.
Oh, Jesus. All right. All right. Well, that was our whole thing. Thank you. Thanks for being our guinea pig on this first one. And
this was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Seedlip, for sponsoring. I'm going to make myself a Seedlip and soda in a minute. It sounds so good.
It's actually what we all need right now, because a few of my friends this week are just like, all right, I've been cutting myself back. It's like it's been the party.
Yeah.
This is like my day walker friends, because they're all like, we have to teach our children fifth grade math, and they're all like, there's not enough wine in the world for me to understand how fifth grade math is now.
Yeah.
And a few of them are like, we need to like tone it down now.
Yeah. Like shout out to all the parents teaching their children right now. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you stay safe.
I will. Have a good weekend, everyone. It was so good to see you all.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.